A big thank you to Ben Fletcher again. This time he's posted an essay about crooks. Uh, and I'm going to go through it just because it synthesizes a lot of ideas about crooks, shows you how to put them together in an essay, and will also reveal for you what's missing. So, hi, I've been writing this essay on crooks. Would you be able to do a video? Yes, I will. How is the character of Crooks important to the novel as a whole? Right, well, to answer that, we're going to consider Steinbeck's viewpoint, and you start straight away with the word Steinbeck, so I know you're going to answer this question. Steinbeck places Crooks in the novel to show the harsh treatment of black Americans during the 1930s. Although Crooks does not play a significant part in influencing the key decisions in the novel, here I think possibly events would be better, such as the shooting of the dog or killing of Curly's wife. He is important as Steinbeck is suggesting that society has trapped him into a position of isolation through no fault of his own. So you've got the author's point of view clearly expressed at the beginning. Well done. Firstly, Crooks' physical appearance. This is an apostrophe missing because the appearance belongs to Crooks. I won't keep correcting your punctuation as we go, but it is slightly careless, as we saw in your previous essay. Is an indicator of the effects of the depression on him. He's described as having a crooked back. One interpretation of this could be the weight of the oppression he has to carry is making him weak, which is good. You need to make the further point here that he therefore represents all black men of the time, to link it back to this point you made earlier. He is the stable buck, once again hinting at the lack of power he has as an individual. Why? So you need to be a bit more explicit about how that shows his lack of power. In a sense, this dehumanizes him by comparing him to a male horned animal. Excellent. Stripping him of his emotions. Also true, but you haven't explained why that gets rid of his emotions rather than his power. Both of those 2 points are valid, but you need to flesh them out a little further. Crooks is subject to harsh racism from the other characters. This is absolutely true, but this paragraph isn't linked to that one. It could come first or it could come later, and you need to find a sentence to link to this idea. Curly's wife tells him that if he opens his trap, she could have him strung up on a tree so easy it ain't even funny. By this, she's referring to lynching, which was still a common practice in Southern America, especially by white groups such as the KKK. Steinbeck is trying to show how common racism was during the period. Good. Crook's power is so limited that he has to remain silent and not retaliate when others verbally assault him. Now, that's a much weaker point. What's more is true, but what's more powerful is actually whether you believe this is true. So for what it's worth, when I read the novel, I think actually, yes, that is a threat that could be carried out. And so it shows how vulnerable and precarious not just his position in society is, but actually whether he'll survive. He's also a very lonely character who lives by himself. Good, but this is another character which, another paragraph which could go anywhere. You haven't linked it to the point you made here. And you always have to do that with your paragraphs. Think about what's going to connect them. It's not good enough to say, well, they're all about crooks. You actually have to think, I'm building an argument here. How does the argument work? We are told that there is only one other coloured family, exemplifying just how alone he really is. The one character who does try and engage in conversation with him is Lenny. When all the other men go into the town, he stands at the door of Crooks's room, although you've got the apostrophe in the wrong place because you've said his name is Crook. At first, Crooks is hesitant to let him in. Perhaps this is because he is so used to living alone that any human interaction seems like a daunting prospect. That's a well-made point. Eventually, however, he tells Lenny that he might as well come on in and set a while. Crooks would not like to admit that he feels lonely to others by him inviting Lenny into his room. That should be but. Proves that he does long for some sort of human companionship. That's very good. You could discuss a little more widely here about how racism has made him feel as though he should treasure his isolation because it's the only right he has. So we've got further levels of depth about Crooks here. Crooks confides in Lenny and explains to him that, so this actually does follow on. You can see that the confiding must follow Lenny being invited in, so the paragraph must go in this order. Explains to him that if a man lives alone too long, he gets nasty and mean. Steinbeck is here suggesting that in times of struggle, people resort to violence and their evil characteristics are more prominent in their personality. That's excellent. Very well made point, bringing it back to Steinbeck's viewpoint. This is evident in the character of Crooks because of the depression. He has become unwelcoming and unfriendly, and that's a little bit weak. He actually taunts Lenny and takes pleasure in Lenny's pain initially by supposing, as Lenny says it, that George won't come back no more. And you really need to discuss that level of torture here and perhaps make a comparison between the way Crooks treats Lenny and the way George used to treat Lenny before he grew to realise his mistakes. And what's significant about that is that Crooks realises mistakes much more quickly than George did. And it's a subtle way that Steinbeck might be suggesting that had Crooks been a white character, we might see him as superior even to George. He says, "Ain't no one got any right in here but me." And you really need to discuss the rights of the black man here. Just a sentence, as I suggested earlier on. His room is the one place where he feels safe and protected away from people's prejudice. That is a very good way of developing that point. Well done. Steinbeck is also showing through the character of Crooks that because he lives in a racist society, he has not been able to reach his full potential and his dreams have been shattered. And this is a very good paragraph because you're starting to draw everything together by looking at the social implications. Well done. He's described as having gold-rimmed spectacles. This symbolises his intelligence, and the colour gold may be associated with wisdom. In his room he has many books. On the other hand, he may use his books as a form of escapism, taking him away from the harsh realities that he has to live with. Good, you're starting to look at things from more than one point of view in quite some detail here, and that's an A-grade skill. Or perhaps he reads because he is bored, and reading seems like the perfect way to fill his hours. This is a less well-made point, and I don't think you've got any quotations to back that up. So I'd get rid of it. It doesn't really help your argument. This proves, though, that Crooks is a knowledgeable and intellectual character, but he is stuck in a position where he is judged purely based on the colour of his skin and not the content of his personality. And again, just as I said to you in the Curly's Wife essay, you have to ask yourself why the author finishes with a character at a particular point. And really our last contribution from Crooks is when he turns to Candy and says he no longer wants to be considered as part of the Dream Ranch. And you haven't really considered his desire to join these white men on the Dream Ranch, or why he rejects that. And that would definitely have taken this into the A star. So a very good A, but bear in mind that grading like this is subjective, very well expressed, and you've structured the argument very well at the end. But remember, if I chopped up your paragraphs and put them down again, it ought to be possible to assemble them only in one order, the order in which you wrote them. And some of your paragraphs could go in a different order, which means you're not linking an argument together. You're exploring different points, and you can't get the A star if you're not linking an argument together. I hope that really helps. And if you'd like more revision essays, or videos rather, don't forget to subscribe.